My name is Lyric Donnelly, and yeah, my parents really named me Lyric. Maybe that's why music never felt like a choice. It's like I came into this world already humming. I'm 26, living in Atlanta, deep inside the city's underground music scene. The real scene, not the shiny commercial one you see in festival promos. I'm talking about sweaty basements, warehouse studios with broken AC units, and a maze of producers who treat collaboration like a game of chess where everyone's trying to checkmate you before sunrise. And until 3 weeks ago, I believed I could survive it, thriving in it even. Back then, my home was a cramped fourth-floor walk-up in Old Fourth Ward, filled with cables, dusty monitors, and LED strips that never stayed stuck to the wall. My days were quiet, but my nights, they were loud. I'd sit cross-legged on my floor, headphones on, layering beats until I felt them vibrating in my ribs. 808s, reversed snares, airy synth pads. I treated them like brush strokes. People used to tell me, "Lyric, your sound feels like neon lights underwater." I took that as a compliment. So when Kota entered my life, this smooth-talking producer with gold chains and a voice like honey dipped in gasoline, I thought maybe I finally met someone who saw my potential. He was older, 29, already had connections with labels, engineers, and mid-tier artists. He kept saying things like, "Lyric, you're special. You just need someone who actually gives a damn." And God, I wanted to believe him. We started working together at his studio, if you could call it that. It was a half-finished room above a tattoo shop, the walls covered in sound foam that peeled off like old stickers. But the energy was good. The grind felt good. I'd bring my hard drive, plug in my MIDI keyboard, and get lost in creation. That's where I made the beats. The beats. The ones that were supposed to be my breakthrough. You ever feel like something is so close you can smell it? That's how it felt. My tag, Lyric on the Line, echoed through every track. They were mine in a way nothing else ever had been. Then came the night everything cracked open. It was a Thursday, stormy, the kind of night Atlanta feels like it's sweating. I was already exhausted, editing a vocal chop for the 10th time when Kota said he wanted to clean up some files while I grabbed late-night tacos. I didn't think twice. I should have. When I came back, the studio lights were off except for Kota's monitor glow. He looked weird, tense, jumpy. I remember laughing it off. "You all right? You look like you saw a ghost." "Nah, just tired. You know how it is." Then he shut down his computer way too fast, like he didn't want me seeing something. Something in my chest tugged, but I tried to ignore it. Trust makes you blind in the worst ways. The next morning, I turned on my setup at home, ready to keep working. I opened my hard drive, and the main folder was empty. Not corrupted, not misplaced, just gone. My heart didn't even drop. It froze, like my blood turned into cold syrup. I clicked around, praying it was some glitch. Checked backups, checked cloud sync. Nothing. All my beats. 3 months of work. Every layered track, every MIDI file, every sound design session, deleted. I felt physically nauseous. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the laptop. I messaged Kota instantly. "Hey, did you move any files last night? My folder is missing." He replied 5 minutes later. "Not my problem. You probably messed something up." Something in me snapped at that response, but panic drowned everything else. I kept searching, kept clicking, kept reopening the same folders like the universe might magically fix itself on the 11th try. But it didn't. Hours passed. I didn't eat, didn't drink. Just sat there, sweating, clicking through empty directories like a ghost. Then, around midnight, I got a notification. A major label, one Kota had been bragging about trying to pitch to, posted a teaser clip for a new artist's upcoming single. I pressed play. The beat dropped. My beat. My beat, my structure, my arrangement. But the producer tag was wrong. Instead of "Lyric on the Line," a deeper, distorted tag echoed. Kota made the fire. My breath left my body. I felt my soul tilt sideways. It wasn't just theft, it was erasure. He didn't just steal my tracks. He replaced my tag, exported everything under his name, and sold it to a label behind my back. I remember whispering, barely audible, "No, no, no, no." Then came the worst part. He went live on Instagram minutes later, bragging, "Big moves coming. Told y'all 2025 was my year. New placements dropping soon. Y'all ain't ready." Comments flooded in calling him a genius. Fire emojis everywhere. Girls flirting with him. Guys calling him king. And I just sat there, staring at my screen with burning eyes, feeling like the walls were closing in. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal. He'd been in my space, my process, my mind, and he erased me like I was a smudge on his screen. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked up and down my apartment, whispering to myself like I was unraveling. He stole my sound. He stole my voice. He stole me. But somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., when the city finally quieted, another thought surfaced. Small, but sharp as a needle. Unless he didn't delete everything. Unless somewhere, in some forgotten corner of some backup, pieces of me still existed. And that's when the idea began forming, slowly, dangerously, like a fuse being lit. I opened my laptop again. I typed one sentence into my notes app. "If he thinks he owns my sound, I'll make sure the world knows the truth." As if on cue, my phone pinged with a message. From an unknown number. Just one line. "You should have kept your files safer." My hands went cold. Someone else was involved. Someone who knew. Someone watching. I stared at the message, pulse pounding, and whispered, "What the hell is going on?" And then my screen flickered. Once. Twice. Then a small window popped up. A system folder I didn't recognize. Inside it were fragments. Audio scraps, corrupted files, pieces of my stolen beats. Enough to spark something dangerous. Enough to start a war. I didn't move for almost a full minute. Just stared at the strange system folder glowing on my laptop screen. The file names looked like glitches. Strings of numbers, half words, garbled characters. But when I clicked one at random, a distorted melody spilled out. My melody. Warped, broken, half missing, but undeniably mine. My throat tightened. It felt like hearing a voice I thought had drowned. I opened another file, then another. Tiny pieces, faint outlines, unfinished loops. Like my hard drive had coughed up the bones of my stolen work. But how? Who sent them? Why now? The unknown number texted again. "If you want the rest, be careful who you trust." I typed back instantly. "Who are you?" No response. Just silence. And the low hum of my laptop fan spinning like it was nervous too. I didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified. Maybe both. But something inside me shifted. Something sharp. Something hungry. Kota didn't erase me completely. And the universe, fate, karma, or some anonymous ghost in my phone had just handed me a match. I decided to burn something with it. For the next 2 days, I didn't leave my apartment. Didn't shower. Barely blinked. I dragged my mattress beside my desk, ordering junk food so I wouldn't have to stop working. I combed through every corrupted fragment, building a map of what belonged where. You ever try to solve a jigsaw puzzle after someone rips half the pieces in half and burns the rest? That's what it felt like. Some files were beyond saving. Some were salvageable. Some needed to be rebuilt from scratch using nothing but my memory and instinct. Luckily, instinct was something I had plenty of. I replayed every fragment, isolating frequencies, stretching waveforms, reversing bits, pulling hidden artifacts out like recovering fossils. Hour after hour, I stitched the pieces together, building the skeleton of something new. Not a beat, not an EP, a weapon. By the second night, my eyes were bloodshot, my hands numb. But I had something. Something alive. Something pulsing. A concept. A revenge album. Not one track, not a diss song. A full narrative. A sonic documentary of theft, betrayal, erasure, mixed into a project so undeniable the industry would have no choice but to listen. I whispered the title out loud into the dim glow of my bedroom. Echoes of the Stolen. The name made my spine tingle. But a plan that bold needed more than just beats. I needed proof, receipts, screenshots, metadata, timestamps, anything that could link my originals to the label's stolen versions. And there was one place those receipts definitely existed. Kota's studio. Just thinking about stepping back into that space made my stomach clench. But fear wasn't going to build this project. Fear wasn't going to expose him. Fear wasn't going to give me my name back. So I grabbed my backpack, tucked in my external drive, and headed out. The tattoo shop under his studio was still open. Fluorescent lights buzzed. A girl with pink braids laughed at something the artist said. I walked past them, heart pounding, and climbed the creaky wooden stairs. Every step felt like a drum hit. Kota wasn't supposed to be here on Sundays. He always bragged about off days where he didn't touch music at all. But when I reached the top and turned the corner, his studio door was cracked open. A sliver of blue monitor light spilled into the hallway. My pulse spiked. Voices drifted out. Not one, two. Kota and someone else. I pressed against the wall and listened. Bro, she's not gonna do anything, Kota said, laughing. Lyric's talented, sure, but she's soft, emotional. You scare her a little and she folds. My jaw clenched until it hurt. A second voice replied, deeper, colder. You better hope so. If she finds those backups you hid, she could expose everything. My breath hitched. Backups? Hid? I leaned closer, barely daring to breathe. Kota scoffed. Relax. I changed all the file names, metadata, tags. Even switched out her samples. There's no way she can trace it back. The other man didn't sound convinced. You underestimate people, especially the quiet ones. They break in ways you don't see. A chill ran down my spine. Then the man continued. And if she uncovers your other projects, the ones you lifted from those kids last year, you know the label's not going to protect you this time. My hand flew to my mouth. Other victims. This wasn't a one-time theft. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. I felt something inside me shift, something heavier than anger, a sense of purpose. I needed those backups. I needed the evidence. I stepped back quietly, trying to decide what to do next. But the floorboard beneath my foot let out a tiny, traitorous creak. The voices inside stopped instantly. Someone stood up, chair legs scraped. Kota's voice snapped through the silence. Yo, who's out there? Panic hit me like a punch. I turned, sprinting down the hallway. Hey, Lyric, is that you? My heart slammed against my ribs. I nearly tripped on the stairs. Behind me, heavy footsteps pounded toward the door. I burst into the tattoo shop, breathless, startling the artist and the girl. Sorry, just leaving, I gasped, pushing through the door. The cold night air slapped me as I stumbled outside, running blindly until the shop disappeared behind buildings. I didn't stop until my lungs burned. When I finally ducked behind an alley, hands shaking, I forced myself to breathe. They knew I was close. They were scared. Good. But now they also knew I was on to them. Bad. I pulled out my phone, typing fast. You said, be careful who you trust. I need more. Who are you? A few seconds passed. Then the unknown number replied, someone who wants him exposed as badly as you do. Followed by, check the folder again. You missed something. My heartbeat kicked into a sprint. I opened my laptop right there in the alley, the screen glowing against the brick wall. I clicked the folder again, scrolled, and my stomach dropped. A hidden subfolder had appeared, one that wasn't there before. Inside it was a video file. Untitled, large, time-stamped from the night my beats disappeared. I opened it, and what I saw froze every breath in my body. For a moment, none of us breathed. The garage was pitch black, cold, metallic darkness swallowing everything except the faint glow from my laptop battery light. Miri stood frozen beside me. Nova's silhouette hovered near the door, her muscles coiled like a spring. Outside, gravel shifted softly under someone's boot. Then that voice again. Smooth, confident, poisonous. Lyric, sweetheart, you don't have to hide. Come out, let's talk. My stomach twisted. Even now he sounded casual, like this was a misunderstanding, like he hadn't stolen months of my life and tried to erase me from the industry entirely. Nova mouthed, "Don't move." I nodded, barely breathing. Kota tapped his knuckles lightly against the garage door. "I know you're in there. My guy saw 3 shadows come in earlier." "You think I don't have eyes in this area?" My heart hammered. Miri whispered into my ear, barely audible. "He doesn't know exactly where we are in the room. Keep still." But Kota kept talking, slowly walking along the outside wall, dragging his fingers across the metal. The sound grated like a knife across my spine. "You girls are making this harder than it needs to be. I'm not here to hurt anyone." Liar. Nova took a slow step forward, positioning herself between me and the door. Kota continued. "Lyric, listen. I know you've been stressed, emotional, and maybe I made some mistakes. But going after me? That's not smart. You don't understand how this business works." My jaw clenched. I understood perfectly. He wanted to control the narrative before I could expose him. "And you linking up with washed-up strays like Nova and Miri?" he added with a small laugh. "Come on, you're better than that." I felt both girls tense at the same time. Kota's shadow paused right behind the door. "You want to know what I think?" he said softly. "I think you're scared. And you should be. Because if you drop anything with my name on it..." Suddenly he slammed his fist against the door. The whole garage shook. Miri gasped. I slapped a hand over my mouth. Kota exhaled, calm again. "You're gonna lose. I've got connections, lawyers, PR teams, money. You're a nobody with a laptop and a temper." My blood went cold. Then Nova stepped out of the darkness, not opening the door, just placing her hand on it, like she wished she could break through. Her voice was low, controlled. "Back away from the door, Kota. Last warning." He laughed. "Oh, look. Nova's still playing hero. Thought I scared you off for good." "I'm not scared of you," she said. "You should be." They stared at each other through a sheet of metal. Then Kota's tone shifted, colder. "You girls think Echo is going to save you? You think he's some kind of legend? He's a coward, a hacker with no real power. And whoever he's feeding information to..." His voice dropped into a hiss. "Is signing their own death sentence." Nova's breath hitched. Miri whispered, "Don't let him get into your head." But he wasn't finished. "You don't know the circle you're messing with. I'm not the only one watching you." A chill crept down my spine. "Not the only one?" Then Kota said something that made my stomach collapse inward. "And Lyric, stop looking for Joe. She's not coming back." Nova's hand tightened into a fist. I could feel the rage radiating off her. Before anyone could react, a car door slammed outside. Kota muttered a curse. Then another voice, male, impatient, called out, "Yo, man, hurry up. We don't have all night." Kota's footsteps retreated toward the lot. A moment later, a car engine revved. Then silence. But none of us moved for a full minute. It felt like the air had turned solid. Finally, Nova let out a shuddering breath. "He's desperate," she whispered. "That's why he came himself." Miri nodded. "He's losing control of the narrative." But my mind was still stuck on one phrase. "I'm not the only one watching you." My skin prickled like the darkness had eyes. When the lights finally flickered back on, we all squinted, blinking away the sudden brightness. Nova locked the metal door from the inside. Miri dropped into a chair, shaking. I opened my laptop again. My hands trembled so badly I had to steady them against the table. Track 1 shined on the screen. Finished, exported, waiting. Nova walked over and stared at it with me. This is going to destroy him," she whispered. I swallowed. Good. But she didn't smile. "Destroying him is dangerous, Lyric. You saw tonight. He'll go further than you think." "Good," I repeated. "Let him." She stared at me, reading something in my voice that frightened her. "This can't be just revenge," she said softly. "If it is, he wins again." I blinked. "What do you mean?" Nova took a slow breath. "If you make this album out of rage alone, he still controls you. But if you make it to reclaim your voice, to show every victim that they weren't crazy or weak. Then he can't touch you anymore. Her words hit me hard, because she was right. This wasn't just for me, it was for Nova, Miri, Joe, and whoever else he'd taken from. This isn't a diss album, I whispered. It's a confession. Nova nodded. And the whole scene is going to hear it. We worked until sunrise. By 8 a.m., we had rough drafts of tracks 2 and 3. The garage vibrated with bass and sharp, slicing hi-hats. Every sound was a piece of me sewing itself back together. Miri stepped away to microwave leftover noodles. Nova went to check the back alley again. I was alone for maybe 30 seconds when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. He left something outside. Don't open the door. Look through the floor vent. My blood froze. I crawled to the small metal vent near the door, heart beating in my throat. I peered through the slats. And there it was. A small black envelope taped to the outside. My name scratched across it in metallic silver marker. Just 5 letters. Lyriki. A warning, a threat, a message. Something darker than anything so far. I whispered. What did you do, Kota? Behind me, Nova's voice suddenly snapped. Step away from the door. Now! Nova yanked me backward before I even processed what she'd said. My knees scraped the concrete floor as she dragged me away from the door and shoved me behind a stack of dusty amp cases. Don't touch that envelope, she hissed. Don't even breathe near it. Miri sprinted over, eyes wide. What did he leave? A threat, Nova said. Or a trap. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like it echoed off the metal walls. But it's just an envelope, I whispered. Nova shook her head sharply. Kota doesn't do just. Her voice cracked with something deeper. Experience. Nova had been through this before. She crouched near the floor vent and peered out carefully. Her jaw tightened. That handwriting. Yeah, that's him. She stood, fists clenched. He wants us to open it. That's why it's taped in plain sight. Miri swallowed. But what if it's important? Nova shot back. Important for who? For him or for us? The room went silent. I forced myself to breathe. My fingers twitched with adrenaline, but somewhere inside me, something steadier took hold. A clarity I hadn't felt since the first day he stole my beats. I need to see what's in it, I whispered. Nova whipped around. Absolutely not. It has my name on it. Exactly, she snapped. That's why we're not opening it. Miri rubbed her temples. Echo needs to see this. Let him decide. Nova nodded, pulling out her phone. She snapped a photo through the vent, careful not to get too close. A minute later, all 3 of our phones buzzed. Echo, don't touch it. Nova exhaled in relief, until another message arrived. It's not from Kota. My blood ran cold. Miri sat up straighter. What does he mean, not from Kota? Nova texted back fast. Then who? Echo replied almost immediately. Someone worse. A chill scraped down my spine. Worse than Kota. Nova and Miri exchanged a look. One of those silent, heavy looks that told me there were parts of this story I didn't know yet. I steadied my voice. Who else is involved in this? Nova hesitated. Miri looked away. Then Nova said, Kota isn't independent. He's part of a small underground ring, producers who steal, sabotage, and ghost artists. They trade stolen work, bury complaints, and use scare tactics to silence anyone who pushes back. My chest tightened. This is a whole operation? Nova nodded. And Echo's been trying to expose them for years, quietly, from the inside. Kota is just one piece. The room felt smaller, colder. I swallowed hard. So what's in the envelope? Nova looked at me, serious. Nothing you want to see alone. A sudden knock on the metal door made us all jump. Not loud, not frantic. Just 2 quiet taps. Miri grabbed a wrench from the workstation. Nova pulled out the small pocket knife she always kept clipped inside her hoodie sleeve. I felt around for something. Anything. My hand finally closing around a heavy microphone stand. We waited. Another 2 taps. Then a voice. Not Kota's, not Jinx's. A woman's voice. Please, open up. Nova stiffened. Her knuckles turned white around the knife. Miri whispered, Who the hell is that? But I knew. Something in me recognized that voice, even though I'd only heard it in old clips, archived videos, and one shaky interview recorded years ago. I stepped forward before Nova could stop me. "That's Joe." Nova's eyes widened. "Lyric, no." But it was too late. I was already at the door. I pressed my ear to the cold metal. "Joe?" I whispered. A shaky exhale came from the other side. Then, "Yeah, it's me." Miri gasped. Nova backed away like she'd seen a ghost. "Nova told me you left the state," I said. Joe's voice cracked. "I did. I tried. But he found me anyway. Not Kota. One of the others. Someone worse. I don't have time. Please let me in." Nova strode over. "How do we know it's you? Say something only Joe would know." A pause. Then Joe said quietly, "The day you left his studio, Nova, you were shaking too hard to hold your phone. I tied your shoelaces for you because you kept stepping on them." Nova's breath hitched. She unlocked the final deadbolt. The door slid open just enough for Joe to slip inside, and when she did, the air in the garage seemed to change temperature. Joe looked hollow, thinner than in her photos. Eyes red, hair messy, hands trembling violently. She stepped inside and the door slammed shut behind her. Miri rushed to help her sit. Nova knelt in front of her. "Who found you?" Nova asked. Joe swallowed, voice barely audible. "They call him Shroud." The name alone made Nova flinch. Miri cursed softly. "No, no, no, no. He's real?" Joe nodded, tears brimming. "He's the one who runs everything. Kota works under him. Jinx, too. Shroud collects people, producers, engineers, hackers, and trades stolen work like currency." My blood iced. "And he wants you," Joe whispered, looking at me. "Not just your beats. Your reputation. Your silence." My throat tightened so hard it hurt. "He left that envelope," Joe added, pointing weakly at the vent. "Not Kota." Nova shivered. "What's inside?" Joe looked me dead in the eyes. "Proof he can get to you whenever he wants." Something twisted deep inside my stomach. Miri whispered. Echo was right. Joe suddenly grabbed my wrist, her nails digging into my skin. "Lyric, you need to understand. They don't just steal. They erase. They ruin. If you release this album, you're not just going after Kota. You're going after their entire operation." Her voice broke. "And they will come for you." Silence swallowed the room. Then Nova said, steady, fierce, "Let them." Miri nodded beside her. "So they come. So what? We're not running anymore." I looked at the three of them. These girls. Broken, bruised, but standing. And something in me clicked. Fear wasn't the enemy. Silence was. I sat down at the workstation, opened my DAW, and said, "Then we finished the album." But before I could start, all four of our phones buzzed. A message from Echo. "Shroud is moving. You don't have much time. Prepare yourselves." The air inside the garage instantly felt heavier, thick, electric, buzzed with fear. Shroud. A name I had heard for less than 10 minutes, yet somehow it filled the room like smoke. Nova locked all three bolts on the door again, her fingers trembling even though she tried to hide it. Miri pulled the blinds shut over the tiny windows. Joe curled into the corner, gripping her sleeves like she was bracing for an earthquake. I tried to steady my breathing. Echo's message kept repeating in my head. "Shroud is moving. You don't have much time." I opened my laptop again. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but my anger was louder. "No more fear," I whispered to myself. "We finish this." Nova heard me and nodded. Miri placed new headphones on the table. Joe wiped her face and crawled closer, her voice still shaky but firm. "If you're doing this, I want to help." I looked at her, this girl who'd been hunted, terrified, broken, and I felt something like fire rise in my chest. "You're safe here," I said. She shook her head. "No, not safe. But we're not alone anymore." And that was enough. For hours, we worked like our lives depended on it. Maybe they did. I built the backbone of track 4. An angry, distorted beat, built from breaths, metallic rattles, and the low hum of a broken amplifier. Nova sifted through old voicemails Kota had left her. Miri pulled stems out of corrupted folders like she was performing surgery. Jo found her old notebook of lyrics, trembling, water-stained pages filled with ideas she'd once been too scared to release. We used all of it, every bruise, every scar. We turned pain into percussion. Around 11 a.m., exhaustion hit hard. My eyes burned, my hands felt numb. Nova shoved a protein bar into my palm. "Eat! You won't make it if you collapse." Miri poured me water. Jo sat down beside me. "I used to think I'd never make music again," she whispered. "That he took that from me forever." I glanced at her. "Then let's take it back." For the first time, Jo almost smiled. We were halfway through track 6 when the garage lights flickered again. Nova froze. Miri set her headphones down slowly. Jo stiffened. "Is it them?" I whispered. Nova checked her phone. No messages yet. Then all 3 of our phones buzzed at once. "Echo. They're in the neighborhood." My heart stopped. Nova typed quickly. "How many?" Echo's reply made my skin crawl. "3 cars. Multiple people." Miri backed against the wall. Jo covered her mouth. I gripped the edge of the table. Nova kept typing. "Are they close to us?" A pause. Then, "Not yet. Working on redirecting them." Working on redirecting them? Echo wasn't just a hacker. He was guiding the entire board like a strategist. Another message came. "Stay away from the windows. Do not make sound." We obeyed instantly. The garage became a tomb of silence. I could hear distant engines idling, doors shutting, footsteps, voices, but not close enough to pinpoint. Miri whispered, "They're hunting." Nova tightened her grip on the pocket knife. "Let them hunt. We're not prey." But Jo's voice cracked, terrified. "I've heard stories about Shroud's people. They don't need to break in. They can make you disappear without touching the door." A fresh wave of nausea rolled through me. I forced myself to stay upright. "We finished track 6, I said. "Now." Nova stared at me. "Lyric. Now." And maybe it was madness, maybe adrenaline, but the moment I hit play again, something shifted. And me? I layered the drums thicker, added distortion, turned Jo's trembling hum into a haunting harmony, let Nova's angriest voicemail become the hook. We crafted chaos into music. It felt like a spell, a rebellion. At 2 p.m., Echo sent another message. "They're circling the area. I can't hold them off much longer." Miri began pacing. Jo shook uncontrollably. But I only typed one word back. "Understood." Then I hit record again. This time, something in me unlocked. Something I didn't know I'd buried. Old versions of me. All the times I'd been talked over in studios. Dismissed. Belittled. Called emotional or too soft or not industry enough. Every wound poured into the track. My voice cracked halfway through the recording, but I didn't stop. Not until the last synth faded. Nova stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "You're becoming dangerous," she whispered. "Good." I saved the file. 7 tracks done, 3 to go. Then, faint crunching sounds outside the garage. Nova looked up sharply. Miri stumbled backward. Jo gasped. I hurried to the vent and looked out. A black SUV sat idling across the alley. Tinted windows, no plates. My stomach dropped. "We need to leave," Miri breathed. Nova shook her head. "Where?" "They control the streets." But Jo suddenly pointed at my laptop. "Lyric, your battery!" I spun around. The power icon blinked angrily. 4%. No, no, no. I scrambled through my bag. "Where's the charger?" Nova cursed. "I thought you had it." "I did, I swear." Jo's voice rose. "If that laptop dies, all your new tracks." "I know." My pulse skyrocketed. If the laptop shut down now, everything we'd built could corrupt. Miri darted toward a crate near the wall. "Check there." Echo told me he left emergency gear. She tore it open. Cables, batteries, a portable inverter. "Yes!" Miri grabbed the inverter and slid it over. "Plug into that. It should give you an hour." My hands shook so hard I fumbled the cord twice before getting it connected. The laptop screen stayed on. Barely. Nova exhaled like she'd been holding her lungs hostage. But the SUV outside didn't move. If anything, it inched closer. A slow, deliberate roll. My phone buzzed again. Echo, they found the street. You must prepare to relocate. Then another message. Pack the drives, every file, every backup. I swallowed hard. He wants us to run. Nova nodded grimly. He's right. We can't stay here. Miri started stuffing cables into bags. Jo closed her notebook with trembling fingers. And I saved the project file, copied it to my hard drive. Twice. Before closing the lid, I whispered, "We finished the album, even if we have to keep running." Nova placed a hand on my shoulder. Miri grabbed her jacket. Jo steadied herself on shaky legs. The SUV engine growled. Doors began to open. And Echo's final message flashed on our screens. "They're coming. Go. Now." The garage exploded into motion. Miri grabbed the backpacks. Nova shoved the remaining drives into one of them. Jo clutched her notebook to her chest like it was life support. My laptop hung from my shoulder, still plugged into the emergency inverter that hummed weakly, fighting to stay alive. But outside, the SUV doors slammed shut. Footsteps, low voices, multiple people. Too many. Nova threw open the hidden back exit, a narrow metal door tucked behind shelves of rusted symbols. The hinges squealed softly despite our desperation to be silent. "Hurry," she whispered. "They'll flank the building first." Jo went through. Miri followed. I took a deep breath and hurried toward the door. But the moment Nova stepped into the frame, a loud metallic clang echoed through the front. Someone had kicked the main garage door. Hard. Nova's eyes widened. She gestured frantically. "Move! Go!" We squeezed into the narrow passage behind the garage, a cramped corridor between the building and a concrete wall. Only a sliver of sky shone above us. The air smelled like wet cement and old cigarettes. Jo whispered, shaking. "They're outside. They're right there." I could hear them too. Footsteps crunching gravel. Men muttering. One voice, deep, smooth, terrifying, rose above the others. Not Kota, not Jinx. Someone new. "We clear the place. No mistakes," the man said. "Shroud wants the girl alive." Alive. My stomach twisted. Nova grabbed my wrist. "Don't freeze. We run." We sprinted down the tight corridor, stumbling over broken bricks and old beer bottles. The inverter banged against my hip every time I moved. Behind us, raised voices, heavy footsteps. "Someone's already been here. Find a second exit." "She can't be far." We burst out into an open alley behind the auto shop. The afternoon sun hit us like a slap. Miri looked around wildly. "Where do we go?" Before Nova could answer, our phones buzzed simultaneously. Echo. Left. Run 2 blocks. Do not look back. Nova didn't hesitate. "Go!" We sprinted left, feet slamming pavement. Jo nearly tripped. I grabbed her arm and kept her upright. Miri wheezed but pushed forward. Nova stayed slightly behind, guarding us. I heard engines, doors, shouts. Echo texted again. "Cut through the laundromat." We dashed across the street into a faded yellow laundromat with buzzing fluorescent lights. A sleepy old woman behind the counter barely looked up as we tore past the washers and out the back door. We found ourselves in another alley, this one narrower, the walls covered in graffiti. A fresh message buzzed. "Straight, then right. Keep going." We obeyed. My lungs burned. My legs felt like fire. The laptop strap dug into my shoulder with every stride. But the sounds behind us, angry men shouting, doors slamming, footsteps closing in, kept me moving. "Lyric!" Nova shouted. "Faster!" "I'm trying." We cut right, burst into a courtyard behind a closed restaurant. Fresh graffiti, broken patio furniture, a single dumpster. Echo's next message came fast. "Hide behind the dumpster now!" Before we could respond, a black sedan screeched into the alley we'd just left. We dove behind the dumpster, hearts pounding so hard I thought the metal was vibrating. Nova pressed a finger to her lips. Silence. Then, footsteps. 2 men walked past the dumpster, close enough that I could see the shadow of their boots through the gap underneath. One of them spoke. "She can't have gone far. Shroud said she has the laptop on her." A second voice replied, cold and certain. "She won't stay free for long. We're not letting another one escape." "Another one?" Nova squeezed my hand. Her grip was shaking. The footsteps faded. We stayed hidden until Echo's message appeared. Move again, 1 block north. White door, number 42. Knock 4 times. Miri gulped. Okay. Go. We crept out from behind the dumpster and began moving again, forcing calm into our shaking legs. When we finally reached the white door marked 42, Nova raised her fist and knocked 4 times. A latch clicked. The door opened. And a man in a dark hoodie stood inside, face partially shadowed. Get in, he said. Joe gasped. Miri stiffened. Nova stepped in front of all of us, knife in hand. Show your face. The man hesitated, then slowly lowered his hood. My breath caught. He was young, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes and messy hair, but I knew who he was. Everyone in the underground scene had heard the rumors. Nova whispered, stunned. Cool, Echo? He nodded once. Close the door, you don't have long. We stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind us. Echo's hideout wasn't what I expected. Not dark, not grimy, not covered in screens. It was small, warm, filled with cables and acoustic foam, a single desk, and a wall covered in maps and red marker lines. He pulled the curtains closed and locked 3 bolts. Shroud's people are close, he said quietly. They won't find this place yet, but we need to move fast. I swallowed. Why help us? Why me? Echo stared at me for a long moment, studying me. Then said, because you're the first one who didn't break. I blinked. What do you mean? We've helped victims before, but everyone either ran or disappeared. He glanced at Joe. At best. My stomach twisted. So you knew about the others? I tried to protect them. His voice cracked slightly, but Shroud's reach is extensive. Nova stepped closer. Then why bring us here? Echo looked at me again. Because you're building something that scares him. My throat tightened. The album? Yes, Echo said. It's more powerful than you realize. If you release it at the right moment, with the right evidence, it won't just take down Kota. He pointed at a photo on the wall. Kota, Jinx, 2 others with their faces blurred. Then, a shadow in the center. A silhouette with no name. But Shroud himself. The room went dead silent. Miri whispered, you want her to expose the entire network? Echo turned to me. I want you to finish the album, and I want you to release it live the moment Shroud joins Kota's launch stream tonight. Tonight. My pulse spiked. That's hours away. Echo nodded. I know, that's why you came here. Nova stepped forward. We need equipment, a safe space, time. Echo pulled off a tarp covering a second workstation, monitors, speakers, a full DAW, a vocal booth made from blankets and foam. You'll work here. My chest tightened with both fear and adrenaline. Track 7 was done. 3 more tracks to go. And the most dangerous part was only beginning. Echo looked at me with steady, unwavering focus. Lyric, he said quietly. If you want to end this, truly end it, you have to make these next 3 tracks count. I nodded slowly. I will. But then, something slammed against the outer wall. Hard. All 4 of us jumped. Echo's face went pale. They found us. The sound against the outer wall was sharp enough to cut the air. Not a knock, not a kick, not an accident, a warning. Echo moved first. He darted to the main lights, turning them off with a single swipe. The room dropped into a dim glow from the equipment LEDs. Stay quiet, he whispered. They're scanning the building. Nova pressed her back against the wall, blade ready. Miri grabbed a heavy microphone stand. Joe squeezed herself into a shadowed corner. And me? My laptop was still humming with the nearly finished project. 3 tracks left. 3 weapons. 3 truths the world needed to hear. My heartbeat was pounding so loudly I was scared they could hear it through the wall. Outside, slow, deliberate footsteps, multiple sets. Echo's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, then showed us. Shroud's men, 5 of them, full sweep. My stomach flipped. Echo mouthed, do not make sound. We stood frozen as the footsteps stopped right outside the door. A silence so deep it felt like the world held its breath. Then, a knuckle scraped across the wood. Slow, deliberate, taunting. Joe's eyes filled with tears. Miri covered her mouth. Nova tightened her grip on the knife. The scraping stopped. A man spoke, calm, controlled. Lyric Donnelly. My blood ran ice cold. You're making this harder than it needs to be. The man continued. You've caused disruption. His voice was calm, but there was something underneath. Something predatory. Echo leaned close to me and whispered against my ear. That's him. Shroud. Hearing his voice was like hearing someone turn a knife in the dark. You took something from us, he said through the door. And we need it back, Nova whispered fiercely. Don't answer, don't give him anything. But he kept talking, slowly, like he enjoyed the fear he left hanging in the air. Kota was careless, he said, emotional, uncontrolled. But you could be valuable. My breath hitched. Valuable? To them? For now, Shroud added. But every minute you stay silent, that value drops. Nova muttered, he's manipulating you, ignore him. But then Shroud said something that stunned me still. You're not the only one in danger, Lyric. My breath caught. He wasn't talking about me. He was talking about them. Nova, Miri, Yo, Echo. My throat tightened painfully. Shroud continued. Open the door. Give me the laptop. Walk away. No one else gets hurt. Nova hissed. He's bluffing. But something about his tone told me he wasn't. Not even a little. A hard thud hit the wall again, this time closer to the window. Echo whispered, positions. They're trying to locate weaknesses. I grabbed the edge of the desk, steadying myself. Track 8, 9, and 10 still needed to be created. These songs weren't optional. They were truth, proof, exposure, everything. If Shroud got the laptop, it was over. We would all disappear into the same silence he used to bury the others. I swallowed, whispering, I'm not going out there. Echo nodded. Good, because if you did, none of us would. Suddenly, crash! A metal trash can outside toppled over. Not by accident. Someone kicked it. Then, footsteps scattering, voices shouting. Echo's phone buzzed again. He looked down. Then his eyes widened. They brought a motion sensor drone. My chest seized. A drone? Yeah. Echo cursed under his breath. State of the art. Tracks heat signatures through walls. Nova's face drained of color. They'll know exactly where we're standing. Miri whispered, voice shaking. We're done. But Echo slammed his fist on the desk. No, not yet. There's an old vent crawl space under the booth. Vents block heat signatures. You all can hide there. I stared at him. What about you? He shook his head. I'll stay out here. I can override their frequency for maybe 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not enough time for anything. It's enough for them to pass by. Nova grabbed his arm. Echo, they'll take you. He pulled away. If Shroud gets Lyric, this whole operation dies. You run. Now. My throat burned. He was serious. He was willing to sacrifice himself. No, I whispered. We're not leaving you here. You have to, he insisted. The album, your evidence, it's the only chance any of us have. Shroud's voice echoed outside again. Last chance, Lyric. You give me the laptop, I give you peace. Peace. Lies. Echo shoved open the vent panel near the booth. Get in! Nova crawled first. Miri pushed Joe in behind her. They reached back for me. But I hesitated. I stared at Echo. You're coming too. He shook his head again. My signal scrambler only works from here. Echo! Go. The footsteps outside grew louder. Shadows passed by the crack beneath the door. The hum of a drone buzzed through the wall. Echo stepped back from us, face determined, jaw clenched. Lyric, finish the album. There was no time to argue. Nova grabbed my wrist and yanked me into the vent. The metal door slid shut behind us. Darkness swallowed the crawl space. We heard Echo typing furiously, then yelling from outside. The drone vibrating at the window, boots storming the walkway. Then, a loud, violent crash inside the safe house. Someone had forced their way in. Shroud's voice filled the room. Search everything. Screeching metal, furniture thrown, footsteps pounding. Echo's voice, shouting, Run! Then, a sharp crack, a grunt of pain. Silence. I covered my mouth so my scream didn't slip out. Joe began sobbing quietly. Miri clutched her shaking arm. Nova pressed against the vent, listening. After what felt like an eternity, Shroud's voice returned, cold and final. "The laptop is not here. Spread out. Find her." His footsteps faded. Then the room went quiet. Echo didn't speak again. The silence was unbearable. Joe whispered, "Lyric, what do we do?" I swallowed the terror clawing at my throat. "We finish the album," I whispered. "Because if Echo fell for us, then we can't let Shroud win." Nova squeezed my hand. "We move, now." And in the darkness beneath the floorboards, we crawled deeper, away from Shroud, away from Echo's silence, toward a new exit none of us knew existed. We had 3 tracks left, 3 hours, 3 girls, and an enemy finally showing his face. The vents grew narrower as we crawled, the metal cold beneath my palms. Every scrape of our knees felt too loud, too risky, like the world outside would hear us breathing. Nova led the way. Miri crawled behind her. Joe was in front of me, trembling but moving. I carried the laptop strapped to my chest with both hands like it was my heart. Above us, muffled footsteps, furniture crashing, voices barking orders. Shroud's voice was unmistakable, smooth, controlled, deadly. "Check the basement, check the attic. She's in this building." We weren't. But he didn't know the vents existed. "Not yet," Nova whispered. "This way," and tapped lightly on the metal. The vent sloped downward until finally, a dim light shone through a grate. Nova peered through. "It's the back lot," she breathed. "We can drop down." Joe shook her head violently. "What if they're out there?" My fear didn't vanish, but it bent. It sharpened. It became fuel. She kicked the grate loose. Fresh air rushed in. Nova dropped first with a quiet thud. Miri followed. Joe landed off balance. I grabbed her arm to steady her. I jumped last, landing harder than I meant, almost falling to my knees, but the laptop stayed safe. We were in a fenced backlot behind Echo's hideout, concrete ground, weeds splitting through cracks. Only one exit, a rusted metal gate. Miri sprinted to it, locked. But above us, silence. Shroud's men had moved to the front of the building. Nova grabbed the lock, twisted it, tested the hinge. "It's old," she whispered. "Maybe we can—" Bang! A gunshot blasted inside the building. Joe screamed into her hands. Miri staggered backward. I felt the world tilt. Nova's eyes sharpened like steel. "That was a warning shot," she whispered. "Or a threat." It didn't matter which. Shroud was closing in. I stepped forward. "We break the lock." Nova stared at me. "Got a plan?" "Yes," I said, lifting the inverter still hanging from my shoulder. "Electric power. It should short the metal enough to weaken it." Miri blinked. "That's crazy." "Everything we've done today is crazy." Nova nodded, jaw tight. "Try it." I pressed the inverter leads to the rusted metal. A sharp spark snapped through the air. The lock sizzled, glowed faintly. Metal expanded. "Again," Nova whispered. I hit it twice more. The hinge cracked. Nova grabbed the gate, yanked sideways, and it ripped open with a shriek of metal. "Go!" We ran into a narrow alley behind the block, feet slapping pavement. Our phones buzzed. Unknown number. Lyric. "Echo is alive? Barely. Run west." My heart nearly collapsed with relief. "Echo's alive," I gasped. Nova didn't slow. "Then we move. Fast." We sprinted through back streets until the buildings around us changed, from industrial blocks to graffiti alleys to small duplexes to finally a row of abandoned warehouses. Another message buzzed. "Warehouse 19, safe for now." We turned the corner. Warehouse 19 was massive, paint peeling, windows broken, the front gate slightly ajar. The sky above was darkening into early evening. Nova pushed the gate open. Inside, a huge empty space, dust swirling in the dying light. Miri collapsed onto a pile of blankets. Joe sank to the floor, hugging her knees. Nova paced, watching every entrance. I set the laptop down on an old crate. 3 tracks left. 3 hours until Kota's launch livestream. 3 hours until Shroud expected to reveal his artists, his stolen work, his empire. I opened the project file. Nova stepped beside me. Lyric, can you even focus right now? Then we keep moving, Nova said. But if we stay in here, we're trapped. I began building track 8. Fast, sharp, chaotic. An anthem of running, of surviving, of voices hunted but not silenced. Nova punched in rhythm on a broken bucket to create percussion. Miri hummed a trembling harmony. Jo recited a whispered confession about her fear. Raw, unfiltered, heartbreaking. It became the spine of the track. Track 9 came next. A slow, rising storm of layered vocals and distorted synths. My voice cracked twice. Jo steadied me with her hand. Nova whispered, "You're almost there." Then, the final track. Track 10. The one that had to break everything open. I took a breath and hit record. My voice shook, but each word grew stronger. I spoke to the truth, to the stolen beats, to the girls they tried to erase, to Echo fighting for us somewhere out there, to Shroud listening from the shadows. "You can chase us," I said into the mic, voice low and steady. "You can silence rooms, break doors, hunt ghosts. But you don't own sound. You don't own truth. You don't own me." Nova stared at me like she saw a different person. When the last note faded, all 3 girls exhaled like they'd been holding their lungs hostage. "It's done," I whispered. "The album. The weapon. The truth." Night fell. Kota's live stream was set to begin in 10 minutes. We hacked into the warehouse's old power junction. Miri got Wi-Fi from a hidden backup router Echo had installed long ago. Nova found a single working spotlight. I sat on a crate in the center of the space, laptop open, album queued. Jo held her notebook like a prayer. Nova checked the time. 2 minutes. My heart thumped so hard I felt it in my teeth. On Kota's channel, thousands waited. Comments flew so fast they blurred. He appeared on screen, smiling, polished, fake. Behind him, a shadowy figure stepped into frame. Shroud. Watching, waiting. Nova whispered, "Lyric, it's now." I hovered my finger over the upload button. My hand shook. Then, my phone buzzed. "Echo, do it." A tear fell onto my keyboard. I clicked upload, and the screen transformed. 10 tracks, 10 stolen stories, 10 truths. Broadcast live. Straight into Kota's stream. Straight into Shroud's face. Straight into the world. In the warehouse, the speakers trembled as track 1 began. Nova grabbed my hand. Miri sobbed quietly. Jo leaned against me, shaking. And somewhere, across Atlanta, the empire that tried to erase us began to crack. I whispered, "This is my voice. This is our voice. And you can't silence it ever again." We didn't run anymore. We didn't hide. We let the world hear us. "No," I admitted, "but I have to."